Namo manjo shiri ye, nama zo shiri ye, nama dama shri zo ha, namo manjo shiri ye, nama zo shiri ye, nama dama shri zo ha, namo manjo shiri ye, nama zo shiri ye, nama dama shri zo ha.
万劫劫道多劫救难啦，将就跑道当年叫人劫，当年七劫七劫做难，罗拉边界上天主把修上劫学道多劫救难啦，将就跑道当年叫人劫，当年七劫七劫做难见罗拉边界上天主把上劫学道多劫救难啦，将就跑道当年叫人劫，当年七劫七劫做。罗老北京上天主保修杂学北京修建面多长至少领先人连接帮的上级行政们的罗给南大新老街保修也当国着人那面着那个那样的呀米。他他妈东啊，今天是觉得他就大个村里嘛，那些个人情不下当，妈妈去把这家嘛西巴拉，长期没讲，真正就慢的呢，台湾的就朗多高楼这边个东人把西，你看的第一个比这家嘛都真正就慢的呢，第几批生说把的呢，就嘛，点把九级，点把大个小，这段时间把拉嘛来新就拉到说，是想把关于对那个去的修堂调上去。
Please sit in 7 meditative postures of Vairocana and think, all sentient beings have been my mother, and all sentient beings have been my mothers for numberless times. They are as kind as my mother in this life. Even though all kind mother sentient beings want happiness and do not want even a small suffering, however, due to engaging wrongly with objects of adoptions and objects of abandonment, they experience only the suffering. In our mind, sincerely generate loving kindness towards all kind mother sentient beings by thinking, how nice it would be if all kind mother sentient beings had excellent happiness. May all kind mother sentient beings have excellent happiness. I will cause all kind mother sentient beings to have excellent happiness. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
Ade就是东方的那，就得到汤，就是理解呢，那咱就往西，那完了是不理解问题的球，他到了这个怎么找啊，就找啊，大个小得到心里嘛，那么来心里了，都是理解关。
Next, we generate compassion towards all suffering mother sentient beings by thinking, how nice it would be if the body of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue, such as pain, sickness, and harm caused by 4 elements. May the body of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. I will free the body of all suffering mother sentient beings from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
Ade就是东方的那有么个，人家那就以前就找个东方他们都查了呢，把他到了真的怎么找啊，就找啊，大个小得到心里把那么来心里了，都是关系的。
Next, we think, how nice it would be if the minds of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue, such as fear, anxiety, coarse and subtle conceptual thoughts. May the minds of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. I will free the minds of all suffering mother sentient beings from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
A digit is in Mandela, the Magzilas, Majing, Matara, Tata, Chama, Tawachi, Tawa, Davisha, the Shinibala, Shinjilo, the soul, to going.
How nice it would be if the speech of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue, like those coarse and subtle negative speech, such as telling lies and saying harsh words. May the speech of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. I will free the speech of all suffering mother sentient beings from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
A digit is not a digit Mandana. Goes in the gay shower to Balam, Tibicho, Tata, and the Chima, Tawachi, Tawa, Davisha, the Shinibala, Shinjilo, the soul, to going.
In brief, how nice it would be if the three doors of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. May the three doors of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. I will free the three doors of all suffering mother sentient beings from the class that is discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
A digit is in Jetanchi, Dunga, Dungi, Jeda, Tanachima, Tawachi, Tawa, Davisha, the Shinibala, Shinjilo, the soul, to going.
How nice it would be if all mother sentient beings were free from suffering and its cause. May all mother sentient beings be free from suffering and its cause. I will free all mother sentient beings from suffering and its cause. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
A digit is Dungajina, is in Jetata, Chinko, and some good Dunga doing Gesela Pundu, and Gerala, Gerala Poja, that Dinegas, Yanta was to be Sanji Kumpalan given Niba the Silas and Yanta was to be Sanjila Yebi. This in Jetaji to the Sanji Kumpalan, which Jin Jetoba Shao, and the Chanju Senko.
Next, we generate bodhicitta first by asking ourselves, who should take on the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and lower realms? I should take on the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and lower realms. However, I do not have the ability to do so now. Who has the ability? Only those who have achieved the perfect complete enlightenment have the abilities to do so. Therefore, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, by all means, I will achieve the state of enlightenment.
A digit is in Jetanji to the Sanji Kumpata Shao, maybe Senkins of Batini. 랑게니가 다이 지고요. 넘버 지도죠. 저당제랑 이제 모두 동반들 랑 세로 지도죠. 대한 담배 장주 있는데 랑게니가 다이든 도제가고 쟁업이 넘버 지도 줘서 사도서 당연히 세지야.
Next, we generate all-encompassing yoga mind. The conventional aspiring bodhicitta that thinks, for the sake of all other sentient beings, I will achieve enlightenment. These transform into a white, perfect mundis at one's heart. And the ultimate bodhicitta, that is one's mind becoming in one taste with emptiness, the lack of inherent existence, that transform into a white five-pronged vajra on top of the mundis.
어디 지금 다 풍보다랑 이 주비 지다 다들 강대 아마 주비랑 이 주비 동안이 사도 동반의 주지선 동안이죠.
Next, we meditate on emptiness, that I do not exist intrinsically one with, nor intrinsically different from the aggregates. Thus, I do not exist intrinsically.
다들 지금 와서 난지 따와리지 쉬는데 맞아 개종 관리 집안에 있어서 파지두기 냐니지 신도바지 그래서 다 대상 가서 가도돼 에 론식이 가도돼 하러리고 요래 그래서 다 주진이 그런가라 간다 고선지 내상 고서 관리 집안에 된디 계좌대 바 현생지 동화다 타워 디진 중에 치르고 땅이 사된디 공세 야부진에도 주도방이나 이 이제 파지 냐니 신도 그래서
Next is to conjoin our virtuous practice with the practice of six perfections, and is also our lessons is also talking about the lessons that we are studying right now is also talking about six perfections. And the first one is the practice of generosity, and generosity is mainly a mind of giving. So if we are able to cause these minds of giving to manifest, then we will be able to conjoin this session with the practice of generosity. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, whatever roots of virtue that I accumulate through my 3 doors, I give it to all sentient beings for accomplishing their happiness and for eliminating their suffering.
안가서 내사 곳에 지진이라 내사 곳에 집이 가서 다 주진지 파시 냐니 신도 버지 주진서 와다 가서 원이 셈바 주진지 뭐 도스 창도 그래 예선자 다 내사 곳에 집이 가서 가서 링하게 니징에 바 중국의 주바이나 예 주진지 파시 냐니 신도 뭐 말에 다 내사 곳에 집이 가서 다 주진지 냐니지 심바라 니제 중국도 마이죠 예 간도 주도 있어서 그때 인도 마지와 뽕아지 좀바이나 대 간다 쓰든지 빠지 냐니 신도 그래서
Next is the practice of morality. And the nature of morality is an undisturbed mind. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I will properly abandon my physical and verbal negativities so that they do not manifest. Because if my physical and verbal negativities were to manifest during these 2 hours, then I will not be able to conjoin this session with the practice of morality.
다 대지서 가서 수비 냐니 신도 빠지 다 내사 주진이라 내사 곳에 집이 가서 뼈소소 리생라 강이 같이 정말 게 당돌리는 세두 빠지 야보지 정말이나 다 간다 수비 빠지 냐니 신고를 세바서 가서 문주기 셈바스로 여러
Next is the mind. Sorry. Just now I was saying I said wrongly. So morality, the nature of morality is the mind of giving. Sorry, mind of abandoning. So sorry. And next is the practice of patience. And patience is an undisturbed mind. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, whatever physical or mental hardship occur, I will willingly accept it. I will embrace it. Next is the practice of joyous effort. Joyous effort is a mind that takes delight in virtue. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I would take delight in accomplishing virtue and working for the welfare of sentient beings. So if we think in this way, then we will be, this practice of joyous effort will become a Mahayana practice. Next is the practice of meditative concentration, and it is a mind that single-pointedly abides on any of the virtuous object. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I will single-pointedly focus my mind on the virtuous object and not get controlled or not come under the influence of conceptual thoughts and distractions. And this seems to be a bit difficult for us to do so. So in case if we get distracted, then it's very important to recognize that and to bring back our mind on the intended virtuous object. Next is the practice of wisdom, and wisdom is an awareness that thoroughly distinguishes phenomena. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I understand the benefits of listening to Dharma, doing contemplation and meditations, and the faults of not doing so. So the benefits of listening to Dharma, doing contemplation and meditations is in order to achieve the state of enlightenment. So it has such inconceivable benefit. And the faults of not doing so, or faults of not listening to Dharma, contemplating and meditating on Dharma is, one will come under the control of afflictions and thus accumulate negative karma, and that results in a rebirth in lower realms. And also, I will properly understand the meaning of the teachings and also the words of the teachings, and also the objects of adoptions and abandonment. Set a good motivation. For the sake of all mother sentient beings, I will achieve enlightenment. For this purpose, I will properly listen to the commentary on the holy teaching Lamrim and practice accordingly in order to benefit sentient beings.
Oh yeah, thank you.当我是靠近唱的，人的动物是的可多多，实际可多是那样子，但的可多实际的，你的听到了不的，他是也马着哇，他是也马着哇，俺说，人说拍戏图的看到他是也马着一头娘的结果，听到都地上是我的可多马着哇，但是我的龙马不就对了，看到他是也马着一头呢，看到娘的马结果呢，你看到心他的，心他的冲出来，的那个有，可是的弄对了电影吧。
To continue where I stopped in previously, so if the minds of giving that things, so this is where I will begin today. And these words, these explanations is under the outlines, which is method and wisdom must be indivisible. So we must practice the method, and we must practice the method conjoined with the wisdom, and we shouldn't practice it separately. So, like for example, the 6 perfections, such as the perfections of generosity, so is necessarily practiced together with the wisdom. So this wisdom and method must be indivisible. So we must practice the indivisibility of method and wisdom. And regarding this indivisibility of method and wisdom is supported by many scriptural quotations, such as if one were to practice this method or wisdom one-sidedly, then one will fall into the extremes of either samsara or the extremes of nirvana peace.
那地方是唱的对的，人的动物那边东西当，年轻的动物那边东西，这等着给多把汤钱刚当可数的，这边地区的当地人把人那是，是吧？那就是多把呀，刚嘛，这把的里边儿他多把那不得话，他就可惜我的继续噻的，等的多把汤钱给多把汤钱可数的这边区的当地人呢，那区的当面就到你把那就写到了俺家了说吧，说吧，那把汤钱的搞过有的话，写到俺家了说吧。 넘바 탄제다 가와 나시 데 체드네네 덴도르고 마레스 탄다데 로아 덴도르고 마레스타 담부디시로아.
So this sentence is the doubts, is the opponent's doubts. So it say they think if the opponents of giving that things, I will give away this substance. The minds of restraint that things, I will restrain myself from this faulty conduct. And all such virtuous conceptions were apprehensions of a self of phenomena apprehending the 3 spheres. So this is what opponents think. So so they think they think in this way, all virtuous conceptions were apprehensions of a self of phenomena apprehending the 3 spheres. Then it would make sense for those who have found the view of selflessness of phenomena to stop them in every way, just like hatred, pride, and so forth. And it would be inappropriate to rely on them for that purpose.
你讲到俺说南极北可数的人巴是呢，俺说的下级列上一直主办人巴，对，等到地里讲到参谋去过去了哇，可数的人巴，但可数的人巴去当地是了很多啊。他讲到俺说人巴东好像呢，人巴东啊不当是吧？东啥个越当，人比个这。 第一送他讲到，让一就马路边头呢，等的新巴就当巴，新巴就当巴呢。那对平，但我呢这个平上就没吃吧，另外的。那第一送他讲到让一，这个新边头呢，啊，讲到可送让一这个新边头呢，对新巴当啊不的，当啥个有的人在讲到让一就这个新边头呢，对新巴当巴呢。你讲到 디 넘바 타바이 차고요 말이에세 간다 피해 상지 못 잡아지 리고요 말로와 오다디 신바 제거 가서 뎀바 신비 토니 신바 토나다 뎀바 메비 토니 뎀바 투바 메비 토니 간다 디 토니 바상노 타니 디 신바 토나 디니 체바 쳔보이 왔다 간다.
So regarding this apprehending the three spheres, so if one regarding these three spheres, what are these three spheres? That is, like for example, if we were to apply these three spheres in the context of generosity, then there are three. One is the agent, agent. So the one who performed the actions of giving, and the recipient, the recipient, and also the gifts, the gift itself. So these are the three spheres. So if one were to apprehend the three spheres, meaning one apprehend that these three spheres as inherently existent. So if one were to give to others with the adherence to these three spheres, or with the apprehensions of these three spheres as inherently existent, then one's practice of giving will not be a pure one, and one will not receive the extensive benefits as well. So what one should do is one should give to others without such adherence to three spheres as inherently existent. So if one give to others without such adherence, or without the apprehensions of inherent existence of the three spheres, then one will receive the inconceivable benefits of doing so, and one's actions of giving will be a pure one. So with or without adherence to the three spheres, then it makes a big difference in between these two actions.
도자 인고 말에 다 딘디순자다 간다 도바디 간디스나 게이 토바 탄제 간다 코순도 비치리 단지 나시 딜로와 다 딘디지 도발레바이나 데 간다 단도 온다메 토바 탄제 벤 간다 코순도 또 비치리 단지 인바이나 다 게이히니 지 윤데 템바다 로와 윤데 진에 간서 대바 제바 거딘진에 그바 제바시요 오 윤데 진에 대바 제바 거딘진에 그바 제바 간다 다와지단 조바죠 상에 두설페 상황타야 단 추와 마다바 공바 단 년도게 등아 상바 두상마 간다 렌데라서바 내다 탄지 간다 샴바다 닌지 창주세 인주세 러브야러바 탄지 간다 딘은 도시 딘디게 주기원 데서는 리브 디원디 지그리 지기원 드리서는 리브 디원디 지그리 렌디 지사나 리브 딘디 지그리에서 딘디게 상마다 간다 딘도 남베 딘디게 또바 차도 그래서 또바시 차도 그래서 다 디게 상마다 간다 디 간다 디 차도 그루세다 또바 디 원도 로바이나 또바 탄지 취지 단지나 다 뜻으로 간다 로와 뜻으로 베 윤디다 니미 디 요도산에 녜바 장기바 샤다 상마베 윤디나 니미 렌드리스나 디바 렌드리시오레스 렌드리시 사바이나 게원 렌드리시오레스 다 뜻 상마 베로와 덴디게 상당가 장자레스로와 뜻 상마 덴디 상당가 장자레 덴디 송자 다 덴디게 베 취지 단지 뜻으로 상 같이 덴디 땅바 니미스다 페르서 상당바이나 데 취지 단지디야 페르하게 디기 도바디 왕도 셰바이나 취지 단지야 페르와 지바 차는 거래서 간다로와 취지 단지야 다 뜻은 상마 취지 단지 이 왕도 땅바이나 다 뜻으로 상에 같이 땅바이나 데 취지 단지 나시야 페르와 취지 단지를 야 페르와 디나시 차는 거래서 다 도바디 바까고 여러와
Yep. So so if any conception that thinks this is this were considered to be an apprehensions of a self of phenomena that apprehends the three spheres, then thinking about the excellent qualities of a spiritual teacher, the great significance of the freedoms and endowments, and so forth, remembering that, thinking about the suffering of the lower rebirths, going for refuge, contemplating that from this action arises that effect, training in love, compassion, and bodhicitta, and training in the trainings of engaged bodhicitta would be thoughts that think this is this, from this that arises, and these are these excellent qualities and those faults. Since those, yeah. So this is what they think. Opponent think that if these virtuous thoughts, virtuous thoughts such as I will give this substance to who to a person. So this is an object of adoptions, and this is not an object of abandonment. So opponents think that even these virtuous conceptions. So to continue the explanations above. So if all these virtuous conceptions were the self-graspings of phenomena, then all these virtuous conceptions, such as thinking about the kindness of spiritual friends. So previously we thought about by remembering the kindness of spiritual friends, one develops respect, and by remembering the quality of spiritual friends, then faith develops, right? So all these virtuous conceptions, including thinking about the great significance of precious human rebirth, the 8 leisures and 10 endowments, and also thinking about death and impermanence, and also thinking about the sufferings of lower realms, and thinking about karma and effect. Like from these from this cause comes the effect. So since all these are virtuous conceptions, and uh, in their thinking, they think that even the virtuous conceptions are self-graspings of phenomena. So the more you think about these, the qualities of spiritual friends, think about the precious human above, death and impermanence, then the self-graspings of phenomena will also increase. So this is not the right way to think about. This is not the right thinking.
오다 드니슨다 간다 간서 페 게이 도바드 간가드 메나 인데라 연전데다 니민데 요레서 덴디기 상호탄니 페 상호탄가 게 바탕게 바샤다리 에스다 드즈 간다 추지 단지 코스미 데만지 비테디 추지 단지 찬도 바이나 디 간다 간서 드졸 페 상호 같이 땅 바이나 다 추지 단지 페노 그래 마도 디 게잡서 야 페 이고 말이지 추지 단지 야 페 페노 그래서 고다 그 추지 단지 이미 킬레비 완탄니 기자 박 시고요와 어떤지 추지 단지 누구였나 다도 소라페 주와 메다바다 렌데다 더소 간다 샴바다 닌지 장주 센스 같이 인데는데 산든지 상모 같이페 엘레바이나 다 상마페 추지 단지 페하기 체도 차는 거래서 다디 차는 그런게 다 도바디 원도 바탕 바이나로와 어디 차그래서 그래.
Yeah, so for those opponents that think that even the virtuous conceptions, such as thinking about the qualities and kindness of spiritual friends, the qualities of precious human rebirth, and also the faults of samsara, etc. So the more you think about that, since they assert that even the virtuous conceptions are so since they assert that the virtuous conceptions are the self-grasping of phenomena, so the more you think about that, then the self-graspings of phenomena will also increase.
내가 나지 취지 다음에 발배 엔드네랑 이쪽에 동아래 취지 다도 마두바리 상 덴디 장발라 덴디베 상로 덴디레 상 덴디게 베 소소게 상로 같이 레바이나 다 대다 강가다 비나 취지 다음에 네바 춘로야 마디야 데 다음에 또바디야 니바 치르치르로야 용고 말해서 다 그런 길에 밖에 지시고로와 어디 데다 지바레서 보다 간다로와 근데는 또나 간다 또바 탄지가 취지 단지레서 다이 또반다고 디로와 디바 가사조 디로마레 다 간다 인지.
Yeah, so this is the point to be negated, that regarding their assertions that all virtuous conceptions are the self-graspings of phenomena. So this is the point of negations. So for them, the more you think about those good qualities and the faults of samsara, for example, and the good qualities of spiritual friends, so the more you think about that, and the more you think about that phenomena are lacking of inherent existence and the selflessness of phenomena, it will only cause the self-graspings of phenomena to increase further.
Oh yeah. Oh, that the dish kanda, that maso kasi kundo me, that hashang tawa de wachida, maso pe, passion to yani, tai chola pe, nyane chibana tawa show jibu, the kundo matoba de ligorwa, de jibu grace, de nyane chinen diores, ya, jibi chokarina, de jibu rana, samatan chansan soro grace, da, tajiniga pe, saranashi. Chile nyane chine chile chego mare da dipa kaudi da jeba da tai shoninga chadang dang gandu soina da tinika la ngi shuta la jirwa chibi tinika la pa nyane che da nyane ngus sia ke tai nyane chewde tai to nyane chewde jibi to nyane che pa simba tuwa che jibi to nyane chewde tai to nyane de sintuwa chi nika pi da bu ji cha yo mare se ko tindi chadang na shi chawa ina chadang na shi ndugo na wa da nika nyane pi da bu che ji de yugo yo mare se ko
And previously, we talked about the assertions, the Hashang's view. So regarding that's how say it is enough to just to practice the view. It is enough just to practice the view, and in the view itself, then it includes the other practices. So for them, they think that this view and conduct, so the view or method or the view of conduct are contradictory, like hot and cold. So one is impossible to practice these two together. So for them, if you practice view, then if you practice view, then one is impossible to practice the conduct. And if you were to practice conduct, then one is impossible to practice view, since for them, they think that view and conduct are contradictory, like hot and cold.
Diolma kanda Dijin Dribi Nekana, Chuku Tojan Joba, the Sugu Tojan Joba Nimangawa Nanshinse. Dangaso Dilogarta and Dribi Nekana Sanji Kumbaya Tony, the Chukuda, Roa, Chuku Toyata, Suku Toya, that sama Dijila Tono Kandarwa, Dijila Tono, Dinditoa, Dinika Toilet, Drip, Chukutona. Suku Matogumaris, Sukutona, Chuku Matogumari, Dinika the Ton Gawayo Maresra, Dinika Tobalanga Yomar, De Meba Nashi, De Chukutoji Jo, Lakanda Dero, Kanda Landis, Danis and Semanzimbi, Miti Tanje, Demba Tuba Dutzaya, Meba, Dendi Rangi to be Tawana, Tawa Direk, Tenda Dodosha Rangi to be Tawala, Sanotana De, Roa, Rangi to be Tawala, Sanotan, Kanda Tombanji, Kanda Nishin to Bach. Ni hindi to ba dida tomban tela ni hindi to ba dida ta jushu ta chala kanda ala ndilen denjo ndile chen de yo da kanda shamba da ninje la sombal shambi ni ba gona pen peyon de nijer ninje go ba de nijer chanju sen go ba de nijer sen de jushu de kanga ro ni hindi ni ba de nijer be nyane che ba ina dini kanda angawan dogu mares nyane ndrebe toja tono gawan dogo mare nyangso tahini nyangso lensi tono jila nyane jina jila nyane jebang gawan dogo mare esego wa o denika be susu be timo mai be jo ndrebe chu sukutigi timo mai be jo de karsina manso senam ji choda cha고 yorwa da 장주 센터 정말 인지 고한테서 cha고 yor에 다 최고기 조대 간다라지 요리 주리 조 가르스나 다 이히 초다 cha고 맞아 동번 지잖아 상당히 고해야 오데 단 드블랑 개와 말에 대pe 주기 냥리 지야기 주기 가서 냥리 지우데 니가 개완도고 말이스 드브 토비 가서 니가 디니 지토발라 지마토바 고 말에 니가 개완도고 말이스 맞아 주기 니가서 니가 냥리 지와랑 개와 요 말이스 예 니가 필수 소바지 구거레스 뭐 된다 드려와
Yeah. So at the time of the result, both the truth body and the form body are construed as the object to be obtained or objects of achievement, and these are not contradictory. Accordingly, at the time of the path, these following two must also not be contradictory. So a mind of certainty induced with respect to the total freedom from even the merest particle of elaborations of a reference object that is apprehended as having signs of the two selves, and the mind of certainty induced with respect to from these that arises, and this has that fault or quality. So at the time of the result, so when we achieve the state of enlightenment, so we will achieve the form body and truth body at the same time. So we achieve these two bodies at the same time. So it is not like one achieve the form body and one do not achieve the truth body, or one achieve the truth body, one doesn't achieve the form body. So it's not like that. So the achieving of form body and truth body are at the same time. So, and when we talk about so this is about the resultant object, the objects of achievement, which is the results. So, and then it comes to the cause. So since the at the time of the result, these two are achieving at the same time. So, and then it talks about at the time of the results. So which are the causes for achieving those results, the two bodies. So, and then one has it the certainty regarding has it developing certainty. Yeah, developing certainty with regard to the view that is all phenomena are lacking of inherent existence, and also certainty that is developed with regard to the method side, such as generating loving kindness, compassions, bodhicitta, and also thinking about from these that arises, thinking about the cause and effect, so thinking about the benefits of loving kindness and compassions. So these are the method side. So the certainty developed with regard to the method side are not contradictory. So these two certainty, one certainty is with regard to the ultimate, with regard to the view of emptiness, and another certainty is regard to the method side, such as the benefits of bodhicitta. So these two are not contradictory as well. Since at the time of the result, the achieving of the two bodies are not contradictory. Similarly, at the time of the path, these two causes are not contradictory as well, because the method aspects accumulate the collections of merit or merit of merit, and that act as a cause for achieving a form body later or at the time of the results. And view of emptiness, one through the view of emptiness, one accumulates the collections of wisdom, in other words, merit of wisdom, and that acts as a cause for achieving a truth body. So at the time of the results, shouldn't be contradictory as well.
Dima yanja di shu dwa shi tawa deni tinlan betsala rali mbari ese nga so deni demba ni ta tenda demba da kunzo demba ni sewar kanda rwa demba ni de ta tenda demba da kanda kunzo demba ni tinlan beudi ta kanda tenda demba da kanda nga so ta che tangji rangi ji maduba de rwa rangi ji maduba de ta rangi ji maduba de zore de rangi ji maduba de la sangwa ya boji tani de kanda rangi ji maduba de tenda ya boji 또바이나 따강다 동반이 도그레스 동반이 도에 디르와 오다 랑기 마두바데 간다 동만이 돈이 된다 덴바스 된다 지바레 로와 오다 데다 다 간다 딘시마 덴바니도 마틴라 파우디 다 간다 군조 덴바스와다 가서 다 제쇼 차트소 로와 제쇼 차트소 간다 다베 레준데 준데기페 나샤트소 만초와 준데기 나야서 만초 앞에 정말 지기 된디기 배 녜히 재미네 빙에히 재미 녜히네 바이나 된디 재미 녜히네 바다 더 최당제랑 이제 마두비 따와 땡나 파바 나시 된디기 랑이지 마두바 또 바니 다 핀시 지기 지스 도로 그래서 내자 니전도 말해서 준데기 나야 배 재미 녜히네 바 대당 다 동반이제 대랑이지 마두비 동바트비 로 데니 핀스네자 니젠도 말이 되니 자유 공바 델라도 네발라 되니 지도서 지기 진비 지도도 도래 해서 자유 공바 델라도 네바 다 자유 공바는 산지 공바들 와 산지 공바 터발라 되니가 간다 지기 지라 도선도 그래 마도 자유 공바 델라도 네발라 지기 도도 그래면서 내자 니젠도 말이 해서 다데 단다 디레시 단다 디로와.
And that depends, in fact, on how the view of the two truths is established in the context of the ground. So, regarding these two truths, so the two truths are conventional truth and also ultimate truth. So the ultimate truth is talking about all phenomena are lacking of inherent existence. So if one realizes the meaning of lacking of inherent of all phenomena are lacking of inherent existence, then one realizes emptiness. So these realizations of emptiness and the ultimate truth. So the ultimate truth is the method aspect or the conduct aspect. So that includes thinking about without the slightest confusions about the presentations of karmic cause and effect. So if one uh, 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 if one develops certainty, so if one develops certainty with valid cognitions on the karmic cause and effect, then these two, so the certainty that is developed, how to say, the certainty on karmic cause and effect by valid cognitions, and also the realizations of emptiness. So these two are not contradictory. So they are not only that, I said they are not contradictory. Instead, they complement each other. So they are complementary. So they assist each other, as it says in the text. So they assist each other. So in order to easily in order to achieve the state of enlightenment easily, then one must develop develop the certainty that these two certainties or these two ascertainments are complementary, not contradictory.
어디오라 간다 롱송비 대 시티마티 참들리고도와 다 롱송바의 가싱아 수팀고리아 안 참비 시발에 간다 쮸빠치네바나 판치네 또바 오세 뭐 또바네 창추고세 롱지와 롱송바디레 오디레 다 디기 된다마 시오르데로와.
Yeah. So the meaning of the third scriptural passage is so regarding the third scriptural passage, referring to this one. Also, the questions of Brahma Sutra says, conduct in all its varieties is conceptual. Thorough non-conceptuality is enlightenment.
단도 디가데 지와서 지비가 이베 다 예수 대코나 마지바 템발라 또바 오시게 또 비타바자도 땡지 되다 마템바 도자 템바 미세 다 고린 타마레 대가 손바리에세 다 간다데 온마데 도도 시로와 제바네 제네바 탄제 또바오서 땡디 제바 제네바 탄제는 또 비타바탄레스 또 비타바레스로 또 비타바탄레스로 그러와 또 비타바자도 템바레 마도 간다 예수라 마템바 마레스로와 예수라 때 무그바세 때 템바도 마레스로 그러와 때 무그바 템바도 마레스 제바 제네바 탄제 예수라 서바티다 간다 랑이지 마두바 송자 데니 또 비타바자 예 마도 대달라 간다 때 무그바 마로와 때들 페냐니 지야데 pe duba nyani che te mugu ba mare toja temba mares te ngepa de petela nyani che guba tengu res ina ka tanda kondo ma lungdi shewdi jeba chine ba tanjina toba o se deba kaudi tobi taba sare esa jeba chine ba kanga jiso jeba chine ba kanga pe tobi taba sare esa tobi taba sare de tengu res tenda di shegu do o te da mate ba toja temba mares gori thamala te ga sonja res lo ro.
The meaning of the third scriptural passage is explained in the third stages of meditation. The context for this line of the sutra is an analysis of production and so forth in order to teach that generosity and so forth are not really produced. So the term conceptuality is used to teach that they are merely imputed by conceptuality. However, they are not taught to be objects to be discarded and not relied upon. So regarding these quotations in the questions of Brahma Sutra, conduct in all its varieties, such as generosity, is conceptual. So what does it mean by this sentence is, conduct in all varieties, such as generosity, is merely imputed by conceptual thoughts. So that is what this sentence means. So conduct in all varieties, such as generosity, is merely imputed by conceptual thoughts. They do not exist inherently. So when we and this sentence doesn't this quotation doesn't mean that those conducts such as generosity doesn't need to be practiced. So it doesn't mean that one doesn't need to practice those generosity and it is an object of abandonment. So rather the meaning of this sentence is conduct in all its varieties, such as generosity, is merely imputed by conceptual thoughts, and they are objects of adoption.
That the long story we machoban is that the shiva. That kind of long story was machoban documented by the talk about the changes in the chess. Someone Nila, no but in Bamaja, he saw somebody else. That kind of long story or machoba that changes in Batala Makibat Niva Inaya. Someone Nila, no but in Bamaja was it. That Tombani Chivo Gombatanji, Sanji Kumbale Toto Mares or Kandarua. Tombani Chivo Gombataji, Sanji Kumba to Mare. That day, that Tombani will be here to the Simbaji. That Jubi Tatsola and Yom the Nogu, yes, or Yali Chibet. The Chibo Sanji Kanda, that Numbatsumbo Majao was it and that didn't do.
The compendium of the sutras also clearly sets forth that a one-sided path is not enough. Bodhisattvas who lack skillful means should not make strong effort in the profound dharma. And the meaning is, those who, by meditating on emptiness alone, one cannot achieve the state of enlightenment. So in order to achieve the state of enlightenment, one must conjoin the meditations on emptiness with the conduct.
The pena, many Julian Bagres, that Jumena, the kind of made Shilu, Tangazo Mesa, that may Jup Hilas of Aroa, Membaji Jup Hilas of Atamambo Yorua. Oh, this so Membaji Jup Hilas of Atida, Mena, that made Hinurua. They made them Batu Marua. They are not taking the Mipale and the same Bagurese, Roa. That's kind of Mipale same Baguring to Mipatilla, Santani, they can't agree, yeah. Lo down di pe mi pa chila samotani de de la kanda se pa tini de kanda nyale chia ma to de mi pa me pa tini ji gwa ke yo ma da de nga so chia ma se pa se di so pa ka no ga chi na chama ka wo ro chia ma se pa lan di kanda go je na de ke ni ba ke tha yo ma re si wo ro wa de de na shi mi pa me na se hiwa ju ro se da kanda mi pa me na de mi se ko se de ya Chino ma dia comprendo ke yo ma se wo ro.
The sutra teaching the Tathagata's inconceivable secret says, child of the lineage, it is like this. A fire burns because it has a cause. If the cause is absent, it subsides. Likewise, a mind blazes due to an observed object. If the observed object is absent, the mind subsides. So the meaning of this sentence is, I say fire burns because there is a cause. So because there is a cause of the fire, for example, the firewood, etc. So since the cause is there, then the fire can burn. So without the cause of the fire, then the fire will subside. So similarly, one has to focus. A mind blazes due to an observed object, meaning one have to focus on an object and then cause the mind to develop and develop the mind, or cause the mind to improve. So by focusing on an observed object. So without such observed object, then there is no way to improve our mind. So when the observed object is absent, the mind subsides refer to the assertions that are not thinking about anything. So if you're not thinking about anything, then there is no observed object. Since there is no observed object, then there is no way that the mind can improve. So the mind subsides.
Jatang Manda Yore, Nanso, Membaji Jo, Bishimena, that Kanda Medicine, the Jawatang also Nyamu Pa Jawdi, that Nyamu the best also with Chasing Chisak Utila Tambuni Petona Mateba, Utila Kandarua, Chasing Chiag Yuina, Utisula Tambuni the Pa, Letan Javaina, the Utila Chassi the Chigo Maris, Chassi the Chinores, or Chassi the Chinores, Kurumipa Mena, that Eugene for Yuan Maris or Kandarua. Or the in Chevashi was Nazarua, a lot turned lot terminida, that kind of low Shinjilo, but a low 20, but the sort of Chevashi Shabu, Takandarua, or Takanda Chasi Jesaki, Pena Chapachi, Yuji, Suji Yobaina, 다 당분이 더파 려당에 들어 미역 상마당 려당자이나 다 들어 집에 차선의 제고 말에 대 차선의 신도 그래서 다 비시 멤버지 비시 좀에나 매데 신도나시 대신도 그래서 다시 녀무디 된다 대비자야 된 가서 신 녀무 미바라 신 바그리 미바 미나 신 신도 그래서 다 미바 차선 지역에 배 유디 여바이나 예 자세히 양반 그래서 가지나 들 유들까지 따봐 이나고 미바다까지 배상을 당바에 들이야 자세히 휴체는 그래서 나 당분이 자세히다 파 레저이나 대신도 마 신호 그래서 들 자세히 차비세도 마 신호 그래서 그러와 어디 맞을로 신주로도 좀 빠져야 도스 장으로와.
So regarding this, a fire burns because it has a cause, and also if the cause is absent, it subsides. So it can apply. It can be applied in many contexts. Like for example, if you apply this to afflictions, which is the wrong thoughts or the mistaken thoughts. So just like there is a cause, or since the cause is absent, then fire burns. So similarly, afflictions. So if the observed object is there, so the observed object, for example, for attachment is the object of attachment. So if the object of attachment is there, and what one should do with the object of attachment is one should not think about it, or one should ignore it or discard it. So by ignoring it or by discarding the object of attachment, so since the object is absent, since the object is absent, then the object possessor, which is the attachment, the mind itself, will also subside. So because the observed object is absent, similarly the object possessor will also subside. So if the object of attachment is absent, then the more you engage with the object of attachment, the more attachment will arise, it will increase. So this can be applied to the mistaken thoughts, or this can be applied to the unmistaken thoughts as well. And these can be applied to factually concordant thoughts, and these can be applied to non-factually concordant thought as well.
다 지당 어서 때 냥네 지야라 아 만소배 빵샤가 돌레상 땅오데 또 야슈 차디고 만소 이요바 당분이 그로 이요도 빵샤가 이나 때 텔라미비 가도레 나자레 더차레 참마 마지야 이슈 빙고레 로아 이요바나 봐 당분이 이요도 빵샤가 이나 때 유진데 제두고 말레스 유진데 게 두고 말레스 때배 야 냥네 야고 차디르데.
Yeah, so it's true, because if the object is absent, or if the object is abandoned, the object possessor will also be abandoned. So this one we can relate. Like for example, if the like enemy, the persons that we don't like, or the thing that we don't like. So if we do not look at them, if we do not look at them, then the object possessor, the anger will also subside. So that when the object of anger is abandoned, then the object possessor, which is anger, will also be abandoned. So in this context, abandoned means that it will not manifest. So this can be applied to the object of abandonment, and by not observing it, by not observing it, or by not bringing it to mind, so one will get the benefits of those object possessor, those like jealousy, like pride, like anger, etc. They will not manifest.
어때지 다 간다 탈락이 장주심이 바로도 심비 용서 다 봤습니다. 미반 내와시와 신그레 시라 다 기 자와라 간다 미발라 내와시와 메지스와 기 자와라 미발라 내와시와 메지스 다 녀물라 미발라 주와 메제바 다 녀무 배야 피하지 누나로와 이전 미빠라 간다 좋아 미시바 바로도 신발라 간다 다시서 바로 신발 졸라서 봐 대답에 게자사야라 배 양례 제와라 미반 줘봐 셔봐 그래서 간다 미반 줘봐 셔봐 다 동반이 되어서 들어야서 상당이야 얘라 미부하지 다 닌지 간다 배 원도 배 신신지 동아이 신지라 간다 미네 닌지 지고로와 어디서 간다 미부하지 어떤디 미빠 요루다 미빠 멜루다 미빠 요루도 저도 간다 제바 셰부레 해서로와 그래서 제바 셰부레 해서 된다 되는도와
Therefore, the Bodhisattva skill in means knows how to completely extinguish observed object by means of the thoroughly pure perfection of wisdom, but he doesn't completely extinguish observed objects with respect to the roots of virtue. So you must differentiate between statements that there is an observed object and statements that there is no observed object. So what it means is, those afflictions. So I say one shouldn't take the observed objects of afflictions to mind. So one shouldn't engage with the observed object of afflictions. So rather, one should engage with the observed object of the roots of virtue, such as the observed object of 6 perfections. So for example, if you want to generate compassions, then you observe suffering sentient beings. So by observing suffering sentient beings, compassion develops in oneself. So then you also focus. Then you also do meditations on emptiness. Then you also engage in the 6 perfections, such as generosity. So you do engage with the object of 6 perfection, the roots of virtue, such as 6 perfections, but you do not engage with the observed object of afflictions. So one must differentiate between that there is an observed object and statements that there is no observed object.
당한서 미바 요루다 메뉴디 쳐봐 쳐고래서 다 띵한서 냐바다 하고바 쳐고래 당한서 간다 녀무야 팬드라기 미바 진도나 디바 빵고 다 간다 로와 녀무 폐하기 유지 작은데나 다 담문이 여다 빵잖아 대고 녀무 마지야다 야 만폐야 배 쳐봐 쉬어요다디 띵한서 배 니슨 니바나고 지나 뱅가마가 배 소소로 배 강이 태야기 ndiki pe junsi nde sanjo de so yang se ya sang tang ba ina mi pa di su yu de ba ina de ya nyu di ya phe wu wa control re na ja re chama ya le wu ro ya phe wu ro da de dang bu ni nde bi ni su ba man ri ba da ga ri ina nde bi ni su pa tem ba je ja mi pa so chul sang ma ta ba da nde bi ni su pe da so so ti se kang te ba da so so pe kang chi ba de chi ba ina de so pa tem ba je ne nde bi de so ba sang ma ta ba tem ba je ba ina de la kanda mi bi ya 다 컨트롤에 나자리 들리고 말해. 들리고 말해. 당아서 장주지 세다 동반주 대고야다 돈이 고비시 장바 저공이 다 미빠징이야 봐도 유질은 미네 간다 공부로 와. 유질은 미네 봐 공부로 와. 어디 저 간다 미빠파 더야 말이지. 나서 미빠의 손에 냥리 제고야지다 미빠파 더니 냥리 제고야 니래 와. 이 냥리니 미빠 오에 니서 녀빠도 미빠 구비토네 냥리 치고지 미빠도 파 도저바 이나 냥리 치야데 야와 지와지 어디니 쳐반제 버렸어.
So regarding this, one must differentiate between the statements that there is an observed object and statements that there is no observed object. So meaning that if there is an observed object that will cause the afflictions to arise, then that is to be discarded, or that is to be abandoned. So like, for example, sometimes we think about the hardships that we encounter, or the problems that we encounter in relation to a person or enemy that we don't like. And by thinking about the past experience, then it causes the anger to manifest. So and since the anger manifests, then that anger itself is afflictions. So that that object is an object of abandonment. So we must not that object of anger must be abandoned. So abandoned by not thinking about the object, or like forgetting, intentionally forgetting the object of anger. So by doing so, then one doesn't think about it, and one doesn't remember it, then it will not cause the affliction such as anger or pride to arise. So this is this is the case for the statements that there is no observed object, meaning the observed object of the afflictions should be discarded. And for the second, there is an observed object, meaning the observed object needs as a need to be adopted or need to be practiced. Like for example, the observed object for observe object for meditating on emptiness, the observe object of generating compassions, and the observe object for generating loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta. So one must focus on the object in order to do such meditations, right? Or to do such cultivations. So those observed objects are not an object to be abandoned. So that is what it means by there is an observed object. So the observed object need to be adopted.
다들 나시 대신도 녀무단 세만집인 치마들 해고라 라비 타비 당도 당고래세 다들이 제가 시우도 다지는 본도 시바 나시래 세만집인 치마들 해고라세 라비 타비 당도 당고래세 다들 왜니서 가서 냐니 지역이 시절로 그랬었다 냐니 지역이 시절에 만서 다배 하정이 배 소속의 다지 본도 시바 나시래 군조 제국사의 유지여바이나 더 파르자기는 미바 미도 그렇다 뭐 미바 요코로 파 오늘려자기나 데 랑히지 배 군조데 배 매바 파 차는 파르사 랑히지로와 뭐여 차세 하정 배 당세 제사진바이나 지다랑래고 파 려고래서와 치와디 배 세만집인 치와래서 가서 배 하자 미바 요데 커카도 소소 마가사데 배 카도 모에네서 뉴나 들레스나 군조의 휴청보 일리고로와 하장 마가스나 군로 그 뉴나메 하장레모 여바이나 야티 디스파 충로로와 군로 충로와 따도 모여내서와 오 데리선자 나가나 세만지민 지와데 팔 해고래서 라비기 타비 당도 당그르세와데 마소베 다 게니난다 침반도 보이나 다 게니기 동바소야리 다만도 장주신베 동바 나고 동바 어때지 라비 동바소야스럽게 타비 당만하시나 담보 송그래 수속이 동바다 비다고 야부시 송그래서 그러와 배 해야만 당바서 다간다 타비 당도 당서 수속 배 송그야 저다 배 해야만 당바 문티네 야부시 송그래서 그래 해야만 당바 그러와 타비 당도 당바 오 다데 팔려고야다 츠당고야 아니다 되니 제바시 그래서 다간다 된다 데로와
So not only that, you must differentiate the difference between the first sentence. You also need to differentiate the bonds of the mental afflictions, and apprehending signs need to be loosened, whereas the ropes of the trainings need to be tightened. So one must also be able to differentiate the difference between these two as well. So for those objects, observed objects of affliction such as anger, that needs to be abandoned. So needs to be abandoned by ignoring it, by discarding it. So by discarding or ignoring the objects of a mental affliction such as anger, then the object possessor, which is the anger mind or the minds of attachment itself, will also subside, will also decrease. So those bondage need to be loosened. So those bondages need to be loosened. So like, for example, and this is very true to all of us as well. So if we see someone that we don't like, so if we go very near to the person that we don't like, then the anger also becomes stronger, right? So if we were to stay distant from the enemy or the persons that we don't like, our anger is not as strong as we stay next to the enemy, right? So that shows that by abandoning or by ignoring or by discarding the object of anger, then one's anger will also subside. So that part need to be loosened. And however, for the practice, so the ropes of the trainings that need to be tightened. So for trainings, such as for trainings, then one has to tight as tight as possible. So one has to tighten it as tight as possible. Like for example, individual the lay vows, individual liberation vows, bodhisattva vows, and also tantric vows. So those vows that restrain us or those trainings of restraint, then we have to tie ourselves to it as tight as possible, and it shouldn't be loosened. So one must be able to differentiate or knows the difference between what need to be loosened and what need to be tightened.
다 간다 손자 다 랑이지 카나 마도 가서 디바 강가더다 다 짐바고 가서 디바 소치 일레라 소베텐디 디바 강가더 랑이지 카나 마도 아래 차디 거리 그러와 어 디바 강가데 또 딘디 손자 다 간다 카나 마도 아니리 시그레 다 드니 간다 바 시그야다 기 샤와나 다 마히와 알라비 탄도 담바치 에 친지지 찜바노와 합이 땅도 담바 친지지 찜바니 뭐지데 되니 지금 말에 손둘 해바다 다든지 비 치와 해바니 자 뭐지스 다디 젤말레 그러와 담보 엘라비기 담바다 신지지 찜바니 된다 집어 말디마 젤라야 그러와.
So the two misdeeds must be destroyed, whereas virtuous actions need not be destroyed. Therefore, being restrained by the trainings and being bound by the apprehensions of signs are not the same. So regarding this, the two misdeeds, what are these two misdeeds? The first one is as a misdeeds by nature, and the second one is misdeed by prohibition. So there are these two types of misdeeds: misdeed by nature and misdeed by prohibitions. And these misdeed by prohibitions will most probably will happen to those ordained ones. So it will not it will not happen to the general people who are not an ordained person. So, and the misdeed by nature. So misdeed by nature refers to those negativities such as killing.
dini tanda chigi maarese, da dini jiba maarese kanda labigi soso ka dang gore, tsenzi jimba de jinya yama palwa gore, da kanda sondul heba ni dini cheba shiurwa, sondul heba, da labigi dana soso pe, da kanda domba tsutin kandi jiba ina pe, pi tabo yabo ji somba chi, dugu gorwa, pi tabo yabo chi somba, pe nyente jine, da tsenzi jimba de, denzi kanda da nyomu chadda mozo chamala jana digurwa, 소배 자당 모습도 배 휴자보다 딘디배 준다 휴자보 땜바 많이 봐 진지 김바 딘디 된다 집어 바 손돌 해봐다 송화데 동바서 팔 해야 말이에서 다든지 미치와도 팔려고 그래서 다 된다시나 다든지 미치와 다배 내자리에 공정 아자 뜻 상황 팔려고 그래서 와 손도도 배 해야 말이서 당보 대하는 송그래서 당보지는 송그래서 다 팔려고 하다 거다 팔려고 하다 가리 뭐시 바지 말려고 하다 담보 준거 하다 가리 된 뭐시 바지 어디니 치와지 그래서 다 된다 들어와.
So being restrained by the trainings and being bound by the apprehensions of signs are not the same, nor is loosening one's guarding and restraint the same as loosening the bonds of apprehending a self. So again, we must understand the objects that need to be loosened, and also understand the object that we need to tighten. So for those restrained by trainings, so those are not the object to be loosened. Rather, one should one should tighten ourselves to those objects as tight as possible. So one must guard properly and also restrain properly as well. So those are the objects of adoptions, and they are they need to be tightened. So on the contrary, for those objects such as bound by the apprehensions of signs, so the bondage of the apprehension of signs, so apprehensions of signs can also be applied to afflictions such as the three poisons, attachment, anger, and ignorance. So these objects need to be loosened. So this object needs to be the bondage of the bondage of such need to be loosened. So one shouldn't tighten ourselves to those objects. So one must know, or one must understand the difference between what to be loosened and what's supposed to be tightened.
Domba soya da pe kandijina tizo pa name matamba name mataba leba mai barwa name matawa ase shibo sewa da kanda tizo name tawa ko gudwa pe soso pe domba tse yabo masamba ta kanda ran jinji da ran jinji wa de shu chimbo dwa da de da de domba danji lo shinjo lo de shu chimbo dwa de so la kanda shibo se ta ran do sewa da kanda dirije dwa pe soso pa nyembo meba pe nyomo ba sho kandi jina to la nyembo meba ranghi ji kanda meba chagas ne di chagu mare se ho de la nyembo tengo res ta rando se wa de nyembo meba tin ji nyomo to se meba cha shindo go res na de tondo ya mare se de la nyembo tengo res de de ren do.
Therefore, the meaning of distractions and self-liberation and so forth need to be examined well. So the meaning of distractions also means that need to the distractions in relation to self-grasping, self-cherishing, then they are the destroyer. So it destroys things. So however, if we refer these words of distractions to the guarding and one's guarding and restraint, then it means that one shouldn't be it shouldn't be destroyed. So it shouldn't be destroyed, it shouldn't be ignored, it shouldn't be discarded. And similarly, when we talk about self-liberations, so self-liberations also means that afflictions will not one will not free from afflictions without applying antidotes. So if one do not apply antidotes to those afflictions will not self-liberate. So they will not disappear by themselves. So in other words, one must apply antidotes in order to liberate those afflictions, or in order to free from those afflictions.
Oda tenda dire kanda chi amasimba pe deja gina te nyembo ta nyembo lo ne te da chumbi komba to nyembo pando se de kondo to ba tendi yo da de rangdo se ta dire te rangdo se di tenda le wer kanda chi amasimba gong je gina taba to no ko nyembo to no ko se pando ko se chi yo ta nyembo to ba rangdo se ta to le ba chi yo se song do de ke to ya yo ma se do.
Yeah, so regarding these self-liberations, then this also refer to the opponents of those opponents' view that not thinking about anything, one will achieve liberation and one will abandon afflictions, or afflictions will be abandoned. So that is not the meaning of self-liberation. So you must examine it well.
Lobi kamala shila kana ila michiba kalsite roa disumuda lobi kamala shila ila michiba kalsite yinu ji tete la be tato de shane he kanya ila michiba tsichi de shane gomba de kaba marese roa ta kanda ngwe ni chigi be tomban ji te ten la phaya ge pe ten la pane ten di te la se tsichi do ni ne kanda gom ba de kaba marese roa tela pe yinu ji te peta anda tomban ji te ndo wi te pe tela chuma chi yin ke na lunda ripa gi thone te kanda cheba chine te te tomban ji te la chi chi da gon cheba de ka ba ma re se bor kanda tela gon cheba de ka ba ma re se ta kanda ta jo me ba chi ya ma sim ba mo to ba sonjo se do sonjo toni gon pe tawa sheba de go ba re se ta chi ya ma se ba pe sono tamba ina te toni gon ba yisine di indigo mar di bakawari esita probe kamala hik sonjo se de ta sonjo toni gombi gonte sheba ngobare esita dodo dire ro sonjo se wade chiam semba se kanda chiam seba de gomba de kawari esi wata kanda kayat Dikaya the Dikabare Mato, when it's a Inuji Tela Popi Tato de Shane, Kaya Ila Majeba, say the Shawa Gomba Dekaba Marese, that Sikuruma Chanzalona to Serendua. Oh dear. That kind of Tela Pag Kanda Tombanji Tela Kandiji Papa and Telepe say Chidani, Gon Guba de Gomba Takaba Marua, de Gomba Takaba Maresua. Oh, that take Gongres. That kind of thing about the Gongre, Sonjo Goya Yomares, thing about Gongres, that and that did it. Sonjo Gombaina, take Gonda Kendo Mares, then Yamu Kepung Mares, or did it?
When Master Kamalashila negates mental inattention, so mental inattentions or mental non-applications. So he doesn't negate the meditation where the mind is placed within the view that has determined the meaning of the ultimate mode of being and settle single-pointedly on that without attending to anything else. However, he does negate that meditation on emptiness consists of a mere stabilization in which the mind is left without conceiving anything, without placing it on the meaning determined by the view, the ultimate modes of being. So when Kamalashila negates mental inattentions, he doesn't negate the first one, and he does negate the second one. So the first one that Kamalashila doesn't negate is meditations where the mind is placed upon within the view that has determined the meaning of the ultimate modes of being. So what it means is one examine the meaning of emptiness through scriptural citations and reasoning, and one ascertain the meaning of emptiness. Then one plays the mind. So one's mind is placed on single-pointedly on the meaning that is ascertained by the scriptural reference and also reasoning. So such meditation, and you do not attend to anything else. So you do not think of anything else. So such is not to be negated. So, however, if another person thinks that or not thinking about anything itself is a meditation on emptiness, so such mental inattentions is to be negated. So yeah, so in this sentence, it talks about what needs to be negated and what need not. The one doesn't need to be negated. So you ascertain the meaning of emptiness already, and then you focus your mind single-pointedly on the meaning of emptiness and not thinking about anything else. Such is not to be negated. However, if you think that not thinking about anything is a meditation on emptiness, and then you in that meditations you not thinking about anything, that is to be negated.
Dirija Kamala Shika, Deni Ngata Pardo Shimba, Nigala Chip and Dogger Yes, that and that Dirwa. Ta Deni J. Lula Kanda Soto be Shiraji Chin, Jumara, Mandak in Chisichida Yaban Cheban Juros, that is some Kanda Wolmata Kandama and Chigin Songwarwa. Or that this Resha, that Kanda Dikatruka, Zoji, Mazu Jam, Masimba Ila Shiba Goyan de Pakaya Reserva, that in Chida Gongi Yo Yasarwa, Yo is a design of Yasarwa, design your Sebuto. Or that GM Seva, Tachadang as a GM Seva Gon Seva de Kanda Nika Kanda G Pimbo Yoda Mena Kanshi, Chida Yo Chishinarwa, Nika Killa the Inangazo, Tapa New Mundo to a new Mutus of the Tuyave, the Kalekabo Shurendua, GM Seva.
Yeah, so basically what it means here is that need to be negated is not thinking about anything. So not thinking about anything, not as it not that this was practiced in the past. Even nowadays, there are people who practice such meditations, not thinking about anything as well. So whether it will bring temporary benefits or not is something that one have to think about. Is something that one have to think about. So, however, if we were to from the perspectives of whether meditations of not thinking about anything will subdue afflictions or eliminate afflictions or not, then it's very difficult.
I think also Jelma, Laba Chilla Lobby Zimbase, that Chichilla Lucinema, diliman go tsini shuayirwa jamala tijil los diliman shuayi ta trinde shan te ya tuwa chini jiola ma to te nga so da ya bunda yang ja jiorwa ta tri so pe ya sa jong chi tri pe chisini ban go tsui ba jirwa tri kale pa jire de shan tingdrwa trinde la
that's all. Yeah, so this is same for Mantrayana and Paramitayana. What similarities and differences exist between the two systems with regard to analyzing with the wisdom of mind investigations and maintaining one's meditation will be explained below. So next class, we are going to talk about the training in the perfection of so how to train in the Mahayana in general. So I will I will stop here. If you have any questions, then you can ask now. So because you have started your review class from 2 p.m. already, so later tonight, then Rinpoche's teachings also. So you might be tired. So I will stop here, and if you have any questions, then you can ask now.
Geshe-la, I have one quick question regarding the two misdeeds. One is by nature and one is by prohibition. And just now you mentioned the prohibition is normally for ordained persons. But I thought this is there's also a misdeed by misconduct. That's for people who take vows and break vows. Under what category does that come in?
That's okay, Geshe-la. Ne kana matowa ne de tangi ni sungin ba. Ne ji ji zhang xin ji zhe, ne ji jebe kana matowa ro. ane de jibe kana matowa de ane Geshe-la ge ya de zo rabjung la de chunggi orwa la de chunggi omarwa ane de kongi kandi shua de ane yang zu bina chashen yang zu de domba sunge domba lenge ina ane yang de domba de kaza de dongwa ina dongwa de chungwa ina yang di kana rang신기 kana matowa la chugiona yang na de jibe kana matowa la chugiona
어쩌다 가서 집이 하나만 더 침바이나 딱 괜히 dunjo 리어와 괜히 dunjo 소이나 딱 집이 하나만 더 동화대 레야 이래 다 저다 가서 제장이 또 집이 하나만 더 제장이 동화다야 집이 하나만 더 라지 동화 니가 랭게 네바 용게 되니요 다 네바 레거 가서 동화스 나지지 로상지 그래 상지 간다 제발에 케란의 동바라고 해서 케란의 때 제바 될마 네바이나 제바 될은 네바이나 때 간다 집이 동화도 레고 네바 레고 다 저당 가서 시바이나 저유는 딱 간다 네가 레고 가서 랑지 동화 집이 하나만 더 네바 네가 저 레고 다 침바다고 지나 저 괜히 dunjo도 소이나 다도 소라 뭐에니스 레고 로와
개인 종교 당안에 상기 가서 장sem기 동바된 조 지바지간 로이실라
어다 괜히 dunge 저 괜히 dunge 가서 소사지 동발랭게 에디소레와 레고리 다 저당 가서 장지지 동바다 나게 동바서 레바이나 다 가서 데 네바도 붙이 레고로와 네바 네바지 레고레면 제장 동화랑스나 같이 영화 맵서다나 저래 치마 괜히 마둥 같으니나
디 가자단 디 집이 하나 마토바 될 얘기 말을
제장 동화 같이 말레버다 저래
지경기 동화다 디 가자 디 집이 하나 마토바 될 로가를 왜
제발요 간다 가서 야 집이 하나 마토와 랑지 동화 랑지 하나 마토와 니가 들리는 게 여러와
집이 하나 마토와 당
랑지 동화 니가 랑지 하나 마토 동화 니가 렌는 게 들리죠 나 제장 지부 장
지경기 동화
제장 동화는 제바 집이 하나마다 지부마다 신랑이 하나마다 말랭기 근데 제바요래 다 제단 가서 배 창 통화대 상지기 비네 다창 통화대 가서 침바라주 술리나 다디 나한테요 말 가서 침바라주 간디지나 나와요 말이 다 신다도 가서 상지기 배야 가서 리그 트레이딩다 수보 대보면 된디 진시다 간다 신라 디 두야라 야 나한테 여러 간다 상지기 다 창세와 딜레파지 상지기在시바 당시배 다 나와 메시 된디 여러 간다 엔돌로와
디 지경기 동화세대 가자디 하나 마토와 레냐 요르베길라 고추마송
이비 하나만 더 와시요
집이 하나 마토와 될 레냐 요레
Liang Simarda, Chibikana Mantoa, Takanda, Domba Linke, Tara Yuna in a pair, Sotaji Dombada, Gelu Dunet, Samada Kanda, never Chasna, Chibikana Manto, never live. Kanamato never live, the Rangi Kanamato never to Suniga live in the word. The Pamba Shinda was Pamba Shinda was in Gabaina, Raju Pamba Shinina, Niga lesser, Chibikanamato, Rangi Kanamato, Niga lesser. Pamba Shilan Gabaina. Naji of the Chimba result, Dumbaga Kele or Marwa. Dumba Malidi, the Chibikanamato, never Lig Marisego. Don't want Lig Marisego. Want Lig Marista, Lemba in a Ligrua. Again, Dumba Lembaina, that Ligre as well.
Kini di tomba de lenwaina, and the Kazatonga de Chongwaina, the Chibikamana Mato, the Legere Mato.
Legota, Guinea, Legota, Guinea, Sana, Guinea Tumbalesana.
The Chibikana Mato, the Yori, the Rangshingi Kanamato, the Chungimare.
Angila, you data the Rangi Kanamato, can never condition deeper condition Rangi Kanamato.
In the Chigangi Tonga Pena Chashana, Yella.
Yejanji Tonga chip in the Chashawding also, Dakanda, dinner with that Chantua, the Jejang Tonga,
That's all.
Jejang Tonga, Chantua.
That's all. That's all. Yeah. So, why do I say, when we say that two types of misdeeds, one is misdeed by nature, another one is misdeed by prohibitions. So, misdeeds by prohibitions mainly happen to the ordained one, right? So, mainly happen to the ordained one, but it doesn't mean that those who have taken the individual liberation vows, such as layman vows, are excluded. So, even those who have taken layman vows, then if they were to break the if they were to break the vows, then these misdeed by prohibitions will also happen to lay persons who have taken the layman vows. So this, if like for example, if ordained person, if they were to break their 4 root vows, then they will create a misdeed by nature. They will also create the misdeed by prohibitions as well. So, however, for a lay person who doesn't take any vows, then this misdeed by prohibitions will not happen to them. So, if a lay person who has taken the layman vows, so if they were to drink alcohol, then they will create the transgressions of mere prohibitions. So they will create the the misdeeds of prohibitions.
The Jejang Doans and other Sanjima, Suzuki Domba Kele, the Sanjiki Jepadangawa, since that the GP don't want to GP Kanamato as deliverers. Sanji of the Domba Kele, the Domba the Kele, the Sanjiki Jepatangawa Suna, Sanji Jepatangasna, the GP Kanamato as in Never delivery. Machidang also never Kangade, they couldn't do Mari.
Yeah, so those who have taken the vows, then if one were to break it, then misdeeds by prohibitions will happen to the persons. So it doesn't mean that all faults will become the misdeeds by prohibitions.
Thank you.
Nicola, I want clarification. This observed object is only applicable for training on the path of accumulation to the path of meditation. Doesn't apply to the path of normal learning. Am I right? Because at the path of normal learning, there's no more apprehender and apprehend. So my thinking is that it doesn't apply to the path of normal training. Is that correct?
Kishala dean tangin de mi pa de yorwa. Kang la dean mi be yu den so de mi pa den so la ene ngang zo kasa cholam gomlam thomlam gomlam patu ene ti ja yore mi pa se de ja yore ine ngang zo milolam de thowa ina ene mi pa se de ene ti ja yo mare kain se na kasa zingen yo mare ene yan zimba yo mare de inas.
Molola, that Matsumi Bas Nangato, Molola Totadi, Tomba Ninda Chilas, Gonjevaina, the Tomba Niti, Gonsaki, Yutekari, Yutela Tombo, Sound on Migrua. Mazu Subu within the Tomba Nigombaina, Tongshi Subutila, Sound Tango Tambo, Tongshi de Mabana Tanga, Subu de Tomba Niguan for Yomari. Tambo Tongshi de la Mine, de Subun Tigate, the Tomba Nigongua. What they go with it. Mazu Chu country in a Tomba Nigon, she did Tomba Nigo, the Tongshi, Suni Tomba Nigo, that Tongshi Mabachila Tomba Niguan Chuniomari. Tomba Niguan Chunioma, Tongshi Chichin Songo, but the Miss Wadanger, so Sanji Salada Crown Terrare, Matsu Nemu Piage, Nemu Piake, Mapan Sareta, Sanji ko Sinjin Roa Sinji, Beijing, Sinji Marumba Candila Mibaina, Kundo Sad and Ajasaki Marwa. Matsu Susu Jonah Wachina, that's also Nemu Penis of Yetis and Manti, but Mibaina, then Pedro, the channel ladder. Yabun Dusra, Mazu Sanjit so that the Sinchipe, Gadu Kandijina, Mivaina, Kandila Misnako, Yamumpia, and Kundochi and Ajachia Yomares. Tangazu, so Chiona Wachina, the Tambon in a Yamupesa, Yamupea, Yujuna, the Mamina Yashi, me, but maybe you're the point on Yashi, so what day.
That's all. Yeah, so when we talk about meditations on emptiness, then in order to meditate on an emptiness of something, then we must first identify the basis of emptiness. So like, for example, the form aggregates. So in order to meditate on the emptiness of form aggregates, then we must first observe the basis of emptiness. So then we meditate on the emptiness of that form aggregates. So whatever meditation, whatever phenomena that we meditate on, then in order to meditate on the emptiness of that particular phenomena, we must first identify the basis of emptiness. Without the basis of emptiness, there is no way one can meditate. There is no emptiness to be meditated upon. So when we are still in ordinary beings, then since when the objects is present, then it will causes the afflictions to arise. So, however, for those who have achieved the path of normal learning, so even though they do observe sentient beings, so Buddha still they do observe sentient beings. So sentient beings are their observed object. Like for example, those the untamed sentient beings. So untamed sentient beings are the observed object. Even though the observed object are there, however, it will not causes afflictions such as anger to arise in the Buddha.
Thank you. Thank you.
Actually, at the part of normal learning, although there's Buddha observes sentient beings, but it's no longer for the purpose of training, that the objects of observation in the path of accumulation to the path of meditation. That's what I'm trying to clarify. You only need the object of observation for the purpose of training. But at the level of normal training, there's no more. That's what I'm trying to ascertain. Thank you.
So kisla di kaza lamnga di yora tambo lam shibo de any mi ba de yang gogi ore kan sina kongso de yang de lam kaza de lam la yang lab go wa ha gogi de kisla gogi de so cholang tonglam gomlam di yora wa isla any de lobe lam wa isla any de lobe lam la jame kapsu any de mi pala gogi ore kains na de lam la lab go ro ine mi lo lam la thowa ena any de yang simje penacha shana de simje la mi gi ore de ine kasa labja ke lo yo maris tende inas
다 물론라 티바 첨보고 티지지 물론라 터자데 다 양자 로그야기 가르세 마토바 토이치 로그야기 요 말다 간다 토야치데 게 로그야치 간지 요 마리스
양 미바 가산디 람라 라베기 체도 미바라 데 미고레스 야나 유라 미고레 데 덴데 미고 말와 덴데 치아 요 말와
체도 미고 마리스 로야 체도 Be anja be kan be yende koma thoya che de tindi ji lo ni yela mini tindi ke go mares.
That's all. Yeah, that is true. If whoever has achieved the Mahayana path of no more learning, then it is true that they doesn't need the object. They doesn't need. They don't need the observed object for their training anymore because they have nothing left to achieve. They have nothing left to it. Yeah, they have. They have already achieved what's supposed to be achieved, and there is nothing left.
De tindi ji yor da de lo ya ti ji ya chang ji xin de ya sang ma ba tang che gre. Ka shi shong ka xin tindi ji yor sang ji pa ba sang ji ko pa to sa na gum je gre me gum bi nyang le yo ma se la gre.
Cũng kéo gì rồi nên cũng bị nhầm nhiều mà.
Bi nyang le yo ma se tindi ji lo tang ti yor. Di jun sen ji yor jun sen ga sa na gum bi nyang le se wa de yun di ma dan du ma to ba to yi che de gum bi nyang le e che gu ga sa.
가리 마토박이잖아.
근데 고마 ma to ba to yi che da.
어.
연대 고마치 ma to ba to yi che de gum bi nyang le che gu res. Gum bi nyang le che gu res. gomba de sanji pe jine se tola pe tomban ji tela goni sang de yorwa sanji la pe gombi nyale yo mare gomba yore sen da de lo ni yore da shong kha jine de gore.
Yeah, in some text it says that in order to achieve those who have achieved the state of enlightenment, for them there is for them there is meditations, but for them there is no practice of meditations. So in some texts they differentiate these two words, meditations and practice of meditations, meditation practice. So those who have achieved the state of enlightenment, there is meditations because they do meditate on emptiness, right? So however, for them there is no meditation practice. So in the text, it says that meditation practice is to achieve the higher qualities. Meditation practice is for achieving higher qualities. Since they have already achieved the state of enlightenment, there is no more higher qualities for them to achieve. Therefore, there is no, for those who have achieved the state of enlightenment, or for Arya Buddhas, there is no meditation practice.
Oh yeah, that really thank you.
Thank you.
Yeshila, can I ask one question?
This is wrong. To stop here, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so sorry. Yeah, thank you. Okay, news.
Adisha manzo gi zawa de chitemba jeba na ruwa dio. Da kunsa jang chombo chobu zebe tenzi shi chinje tamba sa sho kana su yo bana temba da roi ti ta kutse yin de tenje zeba de sho gun de jeba da. Ranjan na kadin la ba che cha ji lama sabarum bu cho. Temba da roi ti ta kutse yin de tenje zeba de sho gun de jeba da. Dan zani de la man da niya la so ba juwa shi ne ba la so ba ti da pa ma yo ba ni de do ya ta. Da man tu niya chi sin je chelen de chen na che ko to me ne sa di ba da san ji ko ma ni de to ya.
We conclude with dedication. We dedicate the roots of virtue accumulated for Buddha Dharma to flourish in all 10 directions and for sentient beings to experience excellent happiness. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to all upholders of Buddha's teachings, represented by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. May they live eons long, excellent health, and may their enlightened activities and holy wishes be accomplished instantaneously. Be accomplished instantaneously and spread to all the directions. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue, especially to our beloved teacher, Kyabje Lama Zopa Rinpoche. May Rinpoche's live eons long, excellent health, and may his enlightened activities and holy wishes be accomplished instantaneously without obstacles and spread to all 10 directions. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to the world peace, and may the world be free of wars, conflict, pandemic, and disaster, natural disaster that caused by elements. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to those who pass away and those who suffer because of those because of those problems. So may their negativities be pacified immediately and quickly achieve the excellent happiness and achieve the state of enlightenment.
Doggy Juniors of the Givan, the Tendon, Jichen, Lozan, Toba, Yetiman, Import into Seja, Chanjo, Senjo, Nemo, Jema, Chepana, Jivan Yamba, Mebaya, Punya, Ponda, Peva, Shuan, Jambe, Pai, Chidan, Jimba, the Buddha, Samputia, digging, Dog, Jesus, Givan the Tangera, Dong, Tony, Tower, Remo, Jema, Chepana, Chiju, Chiban, Yamba, Punya, Ponda, Peva, Yo, the Tower, Remo, Jema, Chepana, Chiju, Chiban, Yamba, Una Kunda Peva, Yo, Tuzan Changan, Jangai, Jay, Denzijo, Pese, Dobon, the Chogo, Limit. That's what DJ Dendo, Yade, Yo, Tony Ninja, Sundon, Jubera, Chile, Kanji, Tending, Chana, Tinzi, so on this, I Rendo, Yo, didn't contemplate Mali, Pakan, and you something. Cutting some Tinzi, Janzala, so on this, Hindu, Show, Kara, Shingan, the Peda, the money. Chile, so what Tinzi, Janzo, Yabi, Cindy, Pado, Tinju. Thank you.
Thank you, Gisela. Thank you, Anila. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Gisela.
Thank you,
Geshe-la.
Thank you, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Gisela.
Gisela, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.